E3 2019.
Without Sony? Rapping M&M's without me.
Hello and welcome to Triangle Square, a PlayStation podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, Mr.
Saul Bridges, bringing you guys lucky episode 111.
One of these days, I'm going to steer you in the wrong direction on purpose.
You did that last radio mill, where you said my name first.
Oh, yeah, but no, that was just a weird thing. But in terms of their episode number,
no, we did that.
We
last
always
radio
do
mill.
that last.
We said episode
talk.
10.
Yeah, but that was, again, just an accident. I want to do it on purpose, where I look you dead in the eye and you go, is this episode 111? I go, no, bro, 112. And
You're not going to do it as long, like, you're going to have to do it next weekend when
you've forgotten this conversation?
Well, no, next weekend I would have made the thumbnail.
Yeah, see,
yeah.
You've got your fail safe. Well, anyway, if this is your first time joining us, we are Triangle Squared, a PlayStation-based podcast. So we do talk about all of the companies and how they pertain to PlayStation, be it what we like and don't like about what they do in comparison to what Sony's doing. But with that said, if you want to watch us on YouTube in our videocast format, you can do so by going over there and subscribing to us. If you like what we have going on, hit the bell notification. It'll let you know when these things go live, which is every Monday at 10 a.m. PST and 12 p.m. CST. If you like what we're talking about, comment down in the below section of the comment section of YouTube. Yeah, do that, and we would love to hear your thoughts on anything that we are talking about. If you don't want to watch us, but you want to listen to us, you can do so by going to podcast services, be it across phones, PC, iTunes, Google Play Music. It does not matter. You can find us on Spotify, anything. If we're not on there, you tell us, we'll get it fixed. But if you want to chime in and can't do so by going there, then you can go to our social media platforms and reach out to us and give us your thoughts, and also partake in the Community's Take section that will be coming up very shortly. And you can do so by going to Twitter. Our Twitter is Triangle SQRD. You should be able to find us there. If you want to join in on Facebook and talk with everybody, you can do so by going to Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. It's a group asked to be entered, and we will gladly enter you into that. And you can find our Discord, where we have our moment-to-moment, day-to-day lives of everybody in the community who's willing to dive into that going on. And you can do so by clicking through the link that is in the description below. It's an invite link. You can go in there and have fun and talk to everybody. Hopefully. And let's see, past that, we have some new patrons, so thank you guys. That's two new ones. I'm going to go ahead and shout y'all out now. To Josh Ayers, longtime listener, and Thomas McInnes, also longtime listener.
Thank you, Thomas
guys.
And Josh.
So if you want to support us by giving us even as little as $1 to get early access on stuff, to support us, help us do more stuff with the show, then you can go ahead and head over there and do that. It's patreon.com/Nartech, or you can click through the links in the descriptions. But with that said, I think it's time to start this show off the proper way, and that's always the kind, courteous, friendly way of Saul. What you been up to? What you been playing?
A lot of Destiny 2.
Did you get the gun you were talking about?
Nope. That should happen tonight. For those that are familiar with Destiny 2, I'm grinding for 2 PvP pinnacle weapons. One is called the Recluse, and one is called Luna's Howl. And it's going somewhat well. It's just being very time consuming.
Well, now what about the other gun that you were saying they brought back?
Yeah, Outbreak Prime, which is now Outbreak Perfected. We got that too.
Okay.
We did get it the night that the thing that happened, like I was hoping for.
Yep.
But I did get it the night. No, wait. Yeah, we did. It was actually a weird way we did it too. We watched a couple YouTube videos because it's a really, really hard mission. You did Whisper of the Worm, didn't you?
Yep.
It's similar to that. Less enemies, but similar to that.
I don't think I beat Whisper of the Worm, but I got close.
It's a really, really cool mission for this new one. You go back to the tower. And, and you get to go through the back of the tower and stuff that you've never seen before. And then you drop down, and there's probably, over the course of like a couple of minutes, hundreds of ads spawn, and then a boss, and you got to kill all the ads, and then the boss. But it's really hard, and we were having a lot of trouble because of Gavin was using a bow the entire time.
I was about to ask, is this your normal ragtag group? Now, what's wrong with the bow, though? Because when I was playing, I was really good with the bow.
It just, for this is the...
Too many ads for the bow to handle?
It's too many ads, and it is... they all have different elemental shields, so you realistically need something with Void, Solar, and Arc. But he was using an arc bow, and he was trying to take out yellow bar enemies with it, and that's really hard to do in this day and age. The thing was 690, and we're all 700. We're all max level. And this was still hard.
I'm so woefully behind.
Yeah. But we tried like 4 times, and then Gavin was falling asleep. So we booted Gavin. And then I literally went to LFG on the Destiny app. And like I literally posted something saying, need one more for Outbay Perfected. Know what you're doing. And like within 2 minutes, somebody jumped into that on our app, and I sent him a party invite. Dude was really cool, really helpful. We became friends on PlayStation afterwards, and he's a really cool dude. So that was a really cool experience.
Look at that. Looking for game or whatever that isn't that what LFG is supposed to be?
Looking for group. Looking
for group. Sorry, my bad. That's obviously what it was. I don't know why my brain said game, but my mind was in the right place. My words just weren't. Yeah, that's a good use of that too. Did they pull that? Did they pull matchmaking out of? Because I know early on they were going to do something to either redo matchmaking for raids and stuff like that.
No, it's still there. It's kind of hard.
But is it only for raids? Can you do it for missions as well?
You can do it for Nightfalls, but you can't do it for stuff like this.
Okay, so you still have to go through the traditional method.
It's kind of cool the way this mission worked. You had to go back to the farm. And then you have to start the mission from the farm, which was kind of cool because it's rare. You have to go back there now.
Sure.
And it's whatever you load in with your fire team. It doesn't matchmake at all. And you can actually go do it solo, which people on PC have done.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got it that night. Played some Crucible after that, and just to test the gun out, and the gun is sick, and it works really well, and had a fun time. But that's really been it. I played that night until like 1 a.m. because I was off the next... No, I wasn't. I had to go to work later the next day. And then I was off Friday, and I played a lot on Friday just because I didn't have nothing going on. So
you didn't have nothing going on?
I didn't have anything going on.
It's a double negative.
Yeah. English. But yeah, what have you been playing?
Man, literally only Days Gone. So I beat it Thursday. I rolled credits and started. I didn't get to play Friday at all due to a bunch of different stuff, or even yesterday until later in the night. So when that hit, it ended up being... I'm just doing trophy cleanup now. I'm on general platinum cleanup. I'm at 90% of the trophies right now, so I should have the platinum
pretty soon.
Probably tomorrow afternoon, I will hope. We'll see.
Vampire is on the flash sale for $22 or $23.
Oh, dude, that's a great price for that game too.
Yep, I'm gonna get it.
You should definitely hop into that because is there anything else coming in this next couple of weeks that are really hitting you that hard anyway? Are you getting Rage 2 at launch?
No. I'm not getting Rage 2 at launch. I'm not getting... The next game I'm getting at launch is probably going to be...
What else comes out next week? And why can't I think of it?
Astral Chain?
Astral Chain for the Switch?
For Switch DS,
for the DS.
Either that or... You know what? I don't know. There's like I said this year is weird. Like realistically, for what we know at this current point in time in early May, there's not a lot coming out that I'm excited for, like unless it's on the Switch. So
I know my brain is just really farting. There is something else coming out May 14th, or this week, whether it be May 14th or not. I mean, yeah, besides Rage though. And I don't know why I can't think of it.
In the drop.
Oh wait, is Rage the same day as Sonic Team Racing?
Sonic Team Racing is not in the drop.
Okay, well then there we go. It must be later this month. Yeah, May 21st. My bad.
Okay.
And then shortly followed by Crash Bandicoot CTR.
Yeah. So now that would be fun. I don't know if I'll buy that though. I'll probably play it over here to see if it's fun enough for me to buy.
Yeah, because I'll buy it. Why even waste your time past that? Honestly, I wish your disc drive still worked because I know that you don't really you're kind of on Days Gone. But if you didn't have much going on outside of that, I'd just let you borrow it. But I didn't. You have no way to do that. So
yeah, that's true. Just because I was like.
It is what it is. It's unfortunate, but it happens.
I could get my disk drive to work if I tap it enough real hard and just tap.
Just abuse your system.
Yeah, I just don't care enough.
Yeah.
To like really worry about it.
No, I'm with you though. At that point, that's physical becoming too much. It's like
it's becoming too physical.
I shouldn't have to work this hard to get my physical disk drive to read, so I don't blame you on that one. All right, man. Well, I guess we will go ahead and head over into the community's take and what we decided to ask everybody.
We're gonna lead in the main topic. I thought. Wouldn't that make sense?
We can. Yeah, we'll do it that way.
It's the same thing.
Just to give this out in the general take, this is Mother's Day that we're recording on due to schedule stuff going on, so I'll have to work, everything. So I do have plans with my wife, and we do have to get out of here by a certain time limit. So this will probably be a little bit of a shorter episode, probably about an hour and 15 to an hour and a half. But we're going to do what we can. And
an hour and a half is our normal length.
Yeah, but every now and then we go
hour 40.
Yeah. So we'll see. We may be a little shorter, though, just giving that warning out there, but we'll fly through everything else, and hopefully you guys understand. I am a married man. Saul is a married man, but he doesn't have a baby.
I have a kid, so Mother's Day today
doesn't change for him.
We're going out to eat with Annie's parents, possibly. That might have been canceled, though, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, there we go. Well, just giving you a heads up as to why we do work and have normal lives outside of that, sadly, so we can't just record anytime, anywhere. But we appreciate you guys for supporting us all the time anyway.
Yeah.
Being very nice about that. But go ahead, Saul.
Sure. So for those that don't know, the drop is this week's PlayStation releases across all of its platforms. Soon to only be 1 or 2, technically, VR. First, we have Bartender VR Simulator for PSVR. We have Bubsy Paws on Fire for PS4. Ben has been busy. Castlevania Anniversary Collection for PS4.
I appreciate that.
Darkwood for PS4. DBS Dungeon for PS4 and PS Vita, a digital cross-buy title.
Darkwood looks interesting. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like a top-down horror game. It's really weird.
That doesn't sound like a horror game to me. DBS Dungeon 2 for... Wait, I think I just said that one. Yeah, you threw me off.
My
DBS
bad.
Dungeon 2. Yeah, you heard that one already. Feudal Alloy.
Yeah.
/ I don't know if that's meant to say like ally.
No, it's Alloy, but and probably talking about the metal. But if you've not, because obviously you can't see this, it has a robot with a fish tank on its top that's kind of in the tank. Like, have you ever watched Futurama? How they put like the president's heads and stuff in the glass
on a knight's body.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting.
We have Figment for PS4, Guilty Gear for PS4, The Padre for PS4, A Plague Tale: Innocence for PS4.
That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
Plague Tale. I knew, I was like, there's something coming. It's important. Go ahead.
Quar Infernal Machines for PSVR. Big one on the list for most people. Rage 2 for PS4. Sniper Elite V2 Remastered. You know what? I'm just going to stop saying for PS4. There's so many like less Vita and stuff games. Just assume that if I didn't name it, it's PS4. I'll specify if it's Vita. We have Undead Horde, and that's the last one on the list.
There you go.
Saved a lot of time by cutting that in half.
Yeah, Plague Tale looks really interesting, and I'm hoping that it does the same thing that Vampire did for me, where it's a game that I've had a lot of interest in just in passing and not watching too much on it, but just enough to be interested in it, and that's what I'm kind of aiming for. Yeah. Saul's never been so disappointed. Anyway. So that's probably going to be my other one. I will most likely get Rage 2, but I'll also get Plague Tale. And the upside to Rage 2 is that with it not really being a game that looks to be too serious in the story department, it's a game that I can kind of just have fun with and play.
Yeah.
And then I can let Plague Tale be the more story-driven game.
That makes sense.
So that's probably
Plague Tale looks like that's a perfect fit for, at least right now.
Yeah, sure.
We're about to hit that gaming lull for the summer.
Yeah. We'll see, though, man. The schedule has really changed to where I feel like at least last summer we didn't have as much of a lull, and it looks like going into this summer it's not going to be as bad either. I mean, there's still always going to be the real heavy hit.
Well, for me, yeah, because Rage is coming out for most. Like, a lot of people are going to get that, and a lot of people look like they're probably going to get Plague Tale. So, I mean, there's stuff for everybody.
And then like Sonic Team Racing and CTR.
Well, yeah.
You're getting a pretty wide breadth of games, but there is a lot hitting the end of the year, so... That also depends on what we learn at E3 versus if anybody does any of those surprise E3 releases. If Nintendo
comes out on stage and says Animal Crossing out for the Switch today, I'm just like, PS4 is having a very weak year for me.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll go ahead and move into the news. First thing up, for anybody who doesn't know, which I'm sure everybody who listens to this probably at least knows that it's happened, Sony's second State of Play hit this week, and we saw a deeper look at the upcoming Monster Hunter World expansion, Iceborne, to start things off, and we also got a release date for that, which is September 6th. One of the cool things about that, one of the people behind the game said that you can expect the same amount of content from the base game out of Iceborne.
Yeah, it's essentially a second game.
Yep.
So
just building on, this is a really good way. This is exactly what I've been saying from the get-go is what I feel like Destiny should have done. This is essentially Destiny 2 to Destiny 1 and has a lengthy time. It's releasing almost, a year and a half after the original game release, and doing so with no real other in-between expansions at all. Instead, it's just been free updates and events. But this is the way to do it. When you want to make a sequel like this and just build on something that already exists, Destiny 2 could have come out of the gate a lot stronger, I think, being a game that was built off of everything Destiny 1 had done. And the other upside of that is it does the thing what I always hoped Destiny 2 would have done, which was make everything in Destiny 1 still playable. What Destiny 2 did was like, well, we're going to do new planets that you can go to, but you can't go to any of the planets from Destiny 1 or do any of the content from Destiny 1 that would have helped you, maybe some new mechanics going back into original things.
And now they're using that as a very smart marketing thing because now they brought back Outbreak. And they're just like, you could have had this technically at launch, but for a reason, now you have it and you're hyped up to play the game.
Which you hope means that going into the idea of a Destiny 3, they might be a little more keen to build Destiny 3 without Activision being so heavily involved. they might be keen to make Destiny 3 be a continuation expansion style. Just a full, I don't even care if it's $60. A full $60 expansion that's called Destiny 3, even if you want to, or whatever you want to name it, and then just go from there. And then you still are able to play everything that Destiny 2 introduced and go to all the things of Destiny 2. And you might even have a new take on it with some new mechanics that let you play the other things in a different way.
Well, and of course, this hasn't been announced yet, but something that's really cool that could happen is that the Leviathan, or that the season of Opulence, the next season that starts here soon at the end of May, I think. Or it might be in September. I can't remember when it starts. But whatever it is like now that Siva is not in the game, but there's a presence of it with the gun being there. It's like people have been theorizing that we do know that there's something linking back to the Leviathan that's coming back. That they're refreshing because there's year 1 Leviathan armor in the new trailer.
Okay,
and that's not currently dated for anything in year 2. Like you can get it from your collections, but it has no new stats. It's you have to level it up. But some people are theorizing that Siva is on Nessus and Leviathan was eating Nessus. So we may very well be fighting Siva on Leviathan.
That would be cool.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. All right. Well, anyway, that's the first thing they started off with. Next thing we saw was the announcement of Predator Hunting Grounds, an asymmetrical multiplayer game. For anybody who doesn't know, that's kind of the thing behind games like Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th. And actually goes as far as to say this game is being developed by the same team behind Friday the 13th. So what it does is it sees a group of players take on the role, in this case, of the soldiers, while one player becomes the Predator himself, very much like what you saw on Friday the 13th, where everyone else is campers or whatever, or the camp, whatever they call it, staff, and then one of the people is Jason. So in that case, that's kind of what you get to see. One person will get to be Predator and use all the cool Predator equipment. It will be an exclusive and comes via close partnership with Sony and Fox, and it's also due out next year. And I find this interesting that this is another game coming from an existing big movie, franchise or big
I don't like
movie
games
people.
Like this. Like I don't like horror. Like there's something weird with me, and I just don't like seeing horror villains in games. Like
I don't blame you, but I mean this is an interesting way to use it, if anything, right? Because why would you? Can you think of any use outside of this? And even if you don't care for this that much, what's a better use than this of being able to pull those into gaming at all?
Well, that's what I was going to say was that I don't like seeing horror villains at all. Like when it comes to like fighting games, you got Freddy Krueger, like one of the Mortal Kombats. It's lame.
See, but that one's weird because it feels out of place. It's like it's really not true. It
always feels out of place until like games that are solely made for them, like Alien Isolation, unlike potentially this Predators game. Even though this game is kind of weird because it's almost like Evolve.
Yeah. That's essentially the premise behind it, and Friday the 13th. But it makes sense, right? Because what are those movies about? Both of those movies are about a group of people trying to survive against one entity.
And Friday the 13th made sense. But then having like people in Dead by Daylight and stuff, it makes
Dead by Daylight's weird because it's not an enclosed universe anymore.
By a killer, yeah. But then you have these weird like characters. Like it's just I don't know. I don't like that kind of stuff. Yeah. I don't like cameos from horror villains, I should say.
Yeah, but when the game is built from the ground up around it, it's not so bad.
Yeah, typically
I can agree with that. But anyway, this is interesting that people are going to Sony and working tightly with them again, which is the exact same thing that we saw, which led to SpiderMan coming from Insomniac, and that being a partnership between Disney and specifically Marvel and Sony, but Disney behind it. And now this is Sony and Fox, which is also Disney behind it these days.
Crazy.
So
it's a monopoly. A movie monopoly.
I'm almost curious, though. This seems like it's been being worked on for a while, so this probably happened prior to the merger. Or to the the buyout.
Yeah.
But either way, it's cool to see Sony leveraging all of their, because you have to think Sony exists in almost every type of media, right? They have music, they have movies, they have video games, they have everything. So when you think about that, this is just them essentially leveraging their position in the industry, in every part of the industry, to just get stuff for them here. And we all know, I mean, it's the safe assumption is that the only reason that Spider-Man exists in the Avengers universe is because most likely, I would imagine, that Sony said, go ahead. But we retain the rights. You can use them. We retain the rights to it, though. We make some money off of it, which is good for us. It's good for y'all because you get to make these Spider-Man movies. We still get to do what we want to with it and do things like Spider-Man Spider-Verse that are completely separate from the Avengers. But also, you're going to give us some exclusive games. And it's a win-win on both sides, right? Because you get guaranteed, you get the kind of care and whatnot that goes into a game that normally a lot of people joke about licensed games not having. So this is another way to do that, and a way to make a licensed game that hopefully this time around. The problem with Friday the 13th, I'm not sure if a lot of people know, but the person who gave them the rights to be able to do the Friday the 13th thing was trying to revoke the rights post haste, post release. After the game had already been enjoyed by a lot of people, despite some of its problems.
He succeeded.
I think he did. Yeah,
he did.
Because the game's gone now.
100.
Right?
It's not gone. I don't think permanently. I think if you still had it, you can still play it with other people.
But you can't
online.
sell it anymore, right?
You can't. I don't think you can be. I don't think it can be bought. I don't think they can add anything to it.
Yeah.
I think for all intents and purposes,
the upside of
dead.
this is with this being a first party or treated as a technically a second party game, but with this being treated as an exclusive under Worldwide Studios, that likelihood is completely gone. You know what I mean? We know that this is going to be honored.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing if you like those type of games. Next thing up was called Away, the Survival Series, and it was shown, and it's a console exclusive to PS4. It is on PC otherwise, and it's inspired by nature documentaries, and I think there might be a nature documentary called Away. I'm not sure actually about that. But anyway, the game sees you play as a sugar glider, which is a small little mammal, trying to survive in a world full of predators. So if you like that idea, again, a lot of these 2 games in a row that are kind of the idea of surviving against the odds.
Right.
But that looked kind of cool. I mean, it somewhat similar to what I feel like the vibes I picked up from the what was that game being made by Michael Ansel or whatever? No, not Michael Ansel. I'm sorry. I'm brain dead today, but the game that's the Human Odyssey or whatever it's called.
The Stanley Parable?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's called
The Human Odyssey. I don't even think
Ancestors, the Humankind Odyssey. This is a game I showed you that lets you play as you'll play as a hominoid ape-like character and kind of go up through the centuries.
I vaguely remember
and evolve.
that.
It was shown at E3 last year, I think, for the first time.
Where was it at?
That's a good question. I don't remember. But it was shown off. So
I vaguely remember you showing
But that's the vibe that I got off of it. The next game, and actually it does look kind of cool. I don't know if you have any interest in it, Saul, but River Bond was revealed and is a take on classic dungeon crawler games, including couch co-op, which is a staple for that, in a 16-bit visual style that allows you to destroy parts of your environment to your advantage, which looks also pretty interesting. The game will feature skins for many beloved indie games, such as Guacamelee, Shovel Knight, Enter the Gungeon, and more. The game releases this summer.
Yeah, I had to look at a picture because I was like, River Bond sounds familiar. And I watched the state I played. I was like, I couldn't remember what it was, though.
Mm-hmm.
And the second you said Enter the Gungeon, I was like, yeah, I knew exactly what you're talking about. It does look fun.
Yeah, it does. And I think if it's priced appropriately, which I can't imagine that being $20, more than $20, then it'll be fine.
Maybe $30 at the most.
It'd have to be quite a game for me to make it feel like it's worth $30. But then again, my pricing is so skewed lately with games like Hollow Knight being so chock full of content for a cheaper price than Guacamelee 2. You know what I mean? So it is a weird time.
A better game than Guacamelee 2.
I'd say that too. And I love Guacamelee 2. But yeah, Hollow Knight, definitely really cool. The next thing up was we got a deeper look at Medieval's remake, showing off more gameplay and taking us through reimagined versions of the classics levels, as well as an October 25th release date, as well as, again, really showing where Sony's exceeding and doing really well with these remake pricings. The game will sell for $29.99. That's great.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I really appreciate about the way that they chose to do this, so you watched the whole thing, do you have any interest in Medieval at all?
Not really. I do think they were releasing it at the most perfect time of the year for it.
Sure.
6 days before Halloween.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think I want to pick it up.
I didn't know if you ever played any of the originals or if you had any kind of a hearkening to them.
Yeah.
You know?
A little bit at my friend's Chase house way back when.
It's a series
not enough that I care about.
Sure.
Enough.
It's a type of game that I feel like you don't see as much anymore. It's got a lot of odd humor to it and stuff like that, but it's also got a weird aesthetic. A series that I always felt like lived up to it, at least in spirit to an extent, was when the PS2 rolled around and Medieval was kind of done until the PSP remake of the first game happened. But there was a series called Maximo, Ghost of Glory. It feels like it fits into the vibe of that, where it's set in an old style thing. It's kind of the same type of game where you're moving around and adventuring, and it's also got a goofy sense of comedy behind it as well.
What's the game that is one of the characters looks like well, now I'm really blanking, the boogeyman from Nightmare Before Christmas.
That looks like Oogie Boogie?
Oogie Boogie. Yeah, I was like, I can't think of his real name.
Well, I don't know. Is it a PS1 game?
PS2 game, I think. It was recently remade. It was like $10.
I don't know about that one.
Okay. I'm blanking.
Recently remade.
Yeah.
And the villain...
Like within the past year to two.
And the villain looks like Oogie Boogie to an extent?
To an extent, yeah.
Man, it might be one of those things where once we actually look at it, I'm like, okay, but yeah, definitely not striking a thing with me. But either way, man, $30 for this is a great price point because you look at what they've done with Shadow of the Colossus remake, which had, it was essentially still the same game, but with modern production values, and that was $40. You had the same thing with Ratchet and Clank for $40, and you look at this right here being $29.99, and I think that that's even more fitting because the game tries to harken back to what made the original, and that is a lot of the camera angle staying the same. Instead of it being a reimagining like Ratchet and Clank or a really high fidelity remake in the same sense of Shadow of the Colossus, instead this kind of exists in this in-between where it's trying to be a full-on remake and trying to keep everything that made the game what it is for people who do love it, make it look new and pretty, but still use the same camera angles, the same type of gameplay, not really reimagining anything as much as reimagining what the intent of the artist was to make the game.
Right.
And they actually pulled in, if I'm not mistaken, some of the original artists and stuff, and that way they could look and go, well, what was your idea for that? What was the goal that you had in your mind when you were trying to think of what the world was going to look like on this PS1 hardware? And how can we realize that more true to what you thought on PS4 hardware? And I think that's a cool way to go about doing it. A couple more things, though. The limited edition PS4 Slim for Days of Play event is coming back. They have a new one, and it was revealed this time in the steel gray color with the PlayStation face buttons etched into the top of the system with kind of like a brushed look to them. It actually looks really good, and I like that steel gray color a lot. Not that I would be getting a Slim, and of course, the go-to complaints I know by many that why is it not a Pro? It is what it is.
Cost.
I'm curious. I also wonder if it's because they're trying. The PS4 Slim may be a little easier to produce. It may be cheaper to produce. All those things, and then also saving it to where you can do. There's going to be a limited edition console for PS4 Pro console for The Last of Us 2, probably one for Ghost of Tsushima, probably one for Death Stranding. So when you think about it in that sense, those big three games that are hitting that way, and I say of the three, the one that's least likely to get its own console would be Ghost of Tsushima, and I still think it's pretty likely to get its own console.
Right.
But in that setup, it's like, well, do you really want to overcloud the limited edition Pro market when you have a lot of opportunities coming up where you wouldn't necessarily use them with the normal? I thought it was weird that SpiderMan released with a PS4 Pro bundle and a PS4 Slim bundle.
Yeah, it was kind of different.
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting. That topped it off, though, the final thing they show, and I knew it was going to be it when they said it was going to be a third-party re-reveal, but they topped things off with a new look at Final Fantasy VII Remake, promising more to be shown in June. So like we talked about before, that's presumably going to be at the concert that's happening, and also during E3, probably with a deeper dive. Saw if you had to put a thing on it right now, if you had to say, do you feel like, because they've reiterated that it's going to be a multi-part release, like they've said from the get-go.
Yep.
Part one, as we're going to deem it at this particular point, do you feel like it releases this year or next?
July 24th.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yep, that's why I'm calling it.
I don't think so, but I will say this. I think that there's a good chance that it releases this year. Probably late in the year, kind of similar to what they were originally hoping for with Final Fantasy 15 in the September area, maybe November. But I also think that there's a good chance that what they'll do is do exactly what they did with Kingdom Hearts and give it a January/February release date and let it take up that same spot early year where it kind of goes.
I really hope it's not that far out for episode 1.
I don't know. Biggest thing is how many episodes is it going to be? They've still not said that. Guess we'll have a better idea when we get to the end of the first part. We'll know, well, how far is this into what the original game was to where we can kind of guess how they're going to break the other ones up. Is that going to be based off of sales? If it sells really well, they're going to try and stretch it into 3 games so they can make that much money off of each game. Very similar to what we saw happen with The Hobbit becoming 3 movies.
Please no.
Yeah. Who knows?
Terrible movies.
We'll see what happens. But moving on, though, outside of the Days of Play events, Ubisoft revealed a new Ghost Recon, I think the same day, ironically. After some light teasing, the new game titled Breakpoint seeks to build on what players loved about Wildlands, as well as adding in some survival elements, such as eating and drinking to keep health and stamina stable, alongside weapons maintenance to keep your guns from jamming and keeping accuracy. Very similar to what they did with Red Dead 2, where your guns would get dirty in real time and you'd have to clean them to make sure they stayed accurate and didn't mess up on you as often. Other additions come in the form of dynamic weather, terrain that affects your movement speed, as well as giving you the chance to hurt yourself on it if it's rough enough terrain. The ability to leave camp at any time of day and pass time on it so that you can benefit from the night if wanted. That way you can actually use the night to your advantage for a more stealthy approach. There's more info that was shown, so if you're interested, go check it out, and there's a full reveal that you can see, and they also expect to see more at E3. The game comes out October 4th, so if you're already sold on it, there you go. Death's Gambit, the 2D pixel art take on the Dark Souls formula that me and Saul both played and praised last year, despite some light problems, will be available physically starting June 25th via a partnership with Skybound Games. Though no price point has been set, I would expect $30. The game was $20 new when it came out digitally and still $20 digitally. Typically, when they do these limited run kind of physical releases, they'll up the price a little bit to make it worth it for them. $30 seems like a fair enough point.
Yeah, I think $30 is a fine,
and I
fine
think that's
price for that game.
It's a good price for the game, yeah. Also, because I haven't played it since launch when I beat it, apparently they've fixed all the problems we had. They added the ability to cancel frame animations, so that mid thing, if you wanted to stop a move because you knew that you needed to dodge, in the original game you had to finish your animation to dodge. They kind of made it a little more forgiving.
That's actually pretty cool. I like that a lot.
And there's some other things they did as well, so that's pretty cool. If you haven't played it yet, I do think that Saul and I would both recommend it. So check it out if that sounds like your take.
Good game to get in for speedrunning too.
Sure. And I also say that we did a Let's Play on it, ironically enough, or streamed it. But, I would say that of all of the ideas that everyone wants to do on the 2D take on the Souls formula, this is definitely the best, and it still stands on its own in a lot of
miles
areas.
Ahead of Salt and Sanctuary.
Miles ahead. And I enjoyed Salt and Sanctuary, but this is miles ahead, and it just also felt a little more original for some reason. Who knows why? Let's see. Movie series John Wick is making its way to consoles via John Wick Hex. The game will feature an original story alongside its action-oriented strategy gameplay and features noir-style graphics. Some of the movie's actors will be reprising their roles, such as Lance Reddick, who you can hear in the trailer. Though right now it's unclear if Keanu Reeves will be reprising his role and be involved with it. The game is being developed by Bithell Games, the developer behind Thomas Was Alone and Volume, and I'd say if you look at everything that's going on, it looks like its gameplay is very tied close into Volume's stylistically.
Yeah.
But a little more action.
Those are really good movies.
Yeah.
And I suggest you check all the movies out and then maybe play the game.
Yep. No release window was given, but I assume with the movie coming out like tomorrow or the 15th, I think. I can't even remember. The movie's pretty close to coming out, if not already out, for the third one. So it's probably going to hit this year to buy into that and help it out. Next thing up, though, Path of Exile, Sean's favorite game. The free-to-play action RPG that recently made its way to PS4 will be receiving a new expansion that is set to be announced on May 21st. So if that has any interest to you, be there, check that out. We'll also try and bring it back up on here once we know what it is. Next thing up, Code Vein, the delayed anime take on the Souls formula, while we were talking about that earlier, is still coming, with the publisher announcing a network test for consoles this month, and players who sign up should be getting an email. That there's not a solid date from everything I've seen, but if you're getting an email to go through with it here in the next week or so, there you go. Get a chance to play the game, try it out. And I'd say that even though right now the release date's still unknown, and this was originally supposed to release last year, the fact that they're doing a network test, I would suggest that it's probably pretty close, if not really close. I would say within a month, give them time to make sure the online stuff works adequately. And then we've seen them do this before. We saw Bandai Namco do the same thing with, what is that fighting game series called? And why am I... Soul Calibur.
Yeah. I was like,
the exact same thing, and then they call it
Dead or Alive, and that is not Bandai Namco.
That is not.
By the way, it was Grim Fandango.
Grim Fandango, yeah.
He doesn't really look like Oogie Boogie like now, but when I was a kid,
I get what you're saying though,
yeah.
And the art style is somewhat reminiscent of. No, I don't want to say
really,
that.
No.
But there's things where
but
I
when
can
you're
see
younger, you can.
They're odd.
Like it looks similar,
yeah.
or it's similar. It's appeasing, I guess, to compare them.
All right. Okay, a few more things here. Despite some rocky reviews, Days Gone has seemed to be quite the seller, taking the #1 spot in most countries for the past few weeks, and going as far as to knock a bunch of other games off of the sales, overtaking them in sales completely in UK, being games like The Division 2, stuff like that. So that's pretty big for them. But it seems to have really struck a chord with Japanese gamers, and this is all going to be in context, but The game has become the third highest debut of a Western developed exclusive, selling 114,319 units in the first 2 days. Now, to put that in perspective, because I realize that doesn't sound like a lot, Japan is a lot smaller. And if you look at this situation, to put it in perspective, God of War only sold 46,091 copies at debut, and Horizon Zero Dawn sold 116,997. So, game seems to be doing really well. And actually, I've heard for the most part, after update 1.05 and then now we're on 1.07, most people seem to be having the game work well enough for them that it's fine. I do think this is one of those situations where I wonder how much different the word of mouth around this game would be across the board, because it's really good across the board in terms of people who are playing the game. Most people are like, wow, the game continues to get better, and that's kind of weird, right?
That's why I'm still iffy about buying it. It's like I'm to the point now like where I wouldn't mind playing it, but I'm not going to take the risk.
The way that
it's so different.
It's $10 off, I think, right now, actually, weirdly enough, but not that that's enough for you. But
I would probably pay $40 for it.
What's interesting about it is it's one of those games where, because of what it's trying to do with its story, you end up having a first story arc. You know, the first bit of it is, it's fun and it's good in gameplay thing, but the first like 10 hours,
it's just repetitive.
No, not repetitive, but it just feels like you're like a big tutorial in a weird sense of like, you don't feel like the game is completely set in motion just yet. And maybe that's a little bit too long, because I'm trying to frame it with what I did, but I did a lot of side content early on. But it's like, still, those first early hours feel very different. Now, it's faster paced than Red Dead, I would say, because Red Dead was really slow from all the way through into Chapter 3. But this one is still pretty similar in the fact that it starts slow, and you don't really know why you're supposed to care about the characters or like the characters, kind of similar to Red Dead, where I don't feel like Arthur was necessarily an amazing character in that first couple of acts. It's establishing him and understanding why he is the way he is, and then letting him redeem himself in some ways, or at least giving you ground to where you like him. I think Days Gone does a really good job of that, and once it's a hard switch where once you start liking Deacon and really understanding why he is the way he is, it's like the game clicks and just moves, and it does so well past that. I do think you'll enjoy it.
Interesting, because
but that's the word of mouth around it. That's
50 hours for a platinum, right?
Yeah, maybe a little bit longer. I don't know, because I mean, right now I'd say I'd probably played the game 60 hours, and I'm right at the cusp of a platinum. But I've also
you probably did a lot of like stuff you really didn't have to do. Like you can keep your time down.
And I actually appreciate the platinum list. You know, you don't have to have every collectible.
That's kind of cool.
You have to find 75% of them. That's a pretty good medium
I always like
ground,
that.
You know? So, but either way, I do think you'll like it. But I'm curious as to what the word of mouth would have been around it, critically speaking. With the bigger publications, had it come out and people would have reviewed it off of the build that we're playing now. Doesn't mean it's perfect. Still get some frame rate drops here and there. Had some weird issues where the ground just completely disappeared. Only once, thankfully, and most people I've talked to have not had that problem, so it's not too bad. But it does make you wonder, because it seems like a lot of the reviewers were playing a build of the game that had far more moments that were like my worst moments than what my better moments were. It's like, I honestly do feel like, and this is something Kiki has been talking about as well, I think a lot of the reviews, regardless of whether they intended to or not, were reviewed without beating the game because the game was too frustrating to beat in that current state.
I mean, yeah,
but it's not like that now.
Yeah, it's hard to review it though.
Exactly.
It's broken.
So I know some people are saying, well, they shouldn't have reviewed a game when they didn't get to finish it, but it's also hard to finish a game that's constantly fighting you.
Yeah.
So you do at some point just have to go, well, I have to review the game, and because the game fought me all this time, this is what I have to say about it, and everything I can say about it, it's only going to be in this part.
And the crazy part is that person probably wanted to give the game a 0 because they couldn't complete it, and then they would have gotten crucified on the internet because of it.
Yeah, who knows? And that's also the weird thing about review codes. It's like, how can a game be so much different after the 1.03 was the first patch?
There has to be a lot.
The day one patch for consumers was the patch that made the game actually playable.
Right.
But most reviews were already up there. They were already done.
I feel like that every review that published it reflected that, and a good chunk of them did.
Yeah, but it's also hard to ask a reviewer to go back and re-review a game.
Of course. Their job is playing games to review. Like, they're in the middle of playing a game when you ask them to go do that.
To re-review. It's like, well, I'm already done with that game.
I'm not spending 120 hours, not 120, but like 80 hours, I would say, to finish this game.
Just to try and rebeat it.
Just to up the review score because it should be justified. If I'm playing a game and it's broken, well, you shouldn't have, especially a game that's been delayed this much.
Exactly. And my hope would be,
code should be fixed.
Yeah, my hope would be that with the fact that, because this was a game made, it's really an amazing game in the sense of it reminds me so much of some of the things that Far Cry does, but it does some of them better and or some of them on par. But this was also made with a team that at its largest was probably 150 developers. When you're looking at something like Far Cry,
account, right? But
yeah, and while Far Cry is made by 500 plus developers, and it's kind of amazing. What I would hope is that for everything that they actually did overcome, and the game selling as well as it did, I hope that they do exactly what they've been doing with Guerrilla, pump the studio up, build it up, since we know that there's a reason for them to do that based off of sales, and let us hit a sequel, however they want to do it, be it with the same characters or whatever they decide they want to do. Hit a sequel and really show us from day one every problem that you had, gone. Every other thing evolved on in a great way. Like, I expect Horizon 2, whatever that ends up being, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, I expect that to be so much better than Horizon. And Horizon was already a really good game.
Yeah.
Even with its flaws. So, if you can do that same thing here, which is this has also ended up being a really good game with a little bit more technical issues. If you can get all that done and hit me with a sequel that just blows all of this out of the water, it's going to be a cool redemption story.
I agree.
All right, couple more things and then we'll move along. In the U.S., a senator is introducing legislation that would serve to ban loot boxes and pay-to-win microtransactions in games, quote, played by minors, end quote. Titled the Protecting Children from Abusive Games Act, it seeks to stop the publishers from being able to include easily accessible and abusable microtransactions for kids that they say can lead to addiction. They state that developers who knowingly exploit children should face legal consequences. Now, this is a really interesting thing, and it's been a really interesting talk since it's actually been introduced, and seeing where everybody lands on the side of it. I don't think I've seen anybody solely rest on the side of it's an entirely bad idea, but what I've seen is what I expected. One group of people saying it's about time that somebody does something to force the developers from being able to not being able to do this so easily, and then the other side of people going, despite that that's an issue, is it good to let the legal side of things start getting into our games? Because what repercussions could that have?
Right.
Saul, where do you land?
Can of worms. It not only triggers my biggest pet peeve in the world, or one of them, but it also is one of those scary things that when they start regulating games, things can be taken out of control, like what's going on with the internet and data caps and all kinds of dumb things. Who knows? You may only in the future get to play your Xbox or PS4 or whatever it is by then for 2 hours a day. And they cap you. So
that's obviously a crazy, weird example. But what you're saying is that's a potential.
It gives them the power to do that if they wanted. So it's a very weird thing. However,
or it gives them the precedent to eventually come to that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm saying if you give them a couple of inches, they're going to take a mile. And of course, that doesn't make sense in a video game because they want you to play games for longer, anyways. The companies do.
Sure.
But
it would really hurt business.
Right.
Overall.
And I do feel that this takes one of the biggest, like I said, pet peeves of mine and blows it completely out of the water because they're trying to frame this among the games and the developers when they should be framing this among the parents not taking accountability for their kids.
And you know what's funny?
If you are a responsible adult, do not let your kid have access to a console with a credit card attached to it without a password. Or teach your kid not to spend your money on loot boxes without asking.
Yeah.
That's how you solve this problem. But you won't. You're the same person that buys your kid M-rated games because you're so out of loop in gaming, you don't know what you're buying your kid.
Yeah.
And that's a debate for another day.
It's the whole wanting to have your cake and eat it too thing.
Right, yeah.
Right? Have the cake and buying your kid a game that they probably shouldn't be playing anyway, just so that you can get them out of your hair.
Right.
And then also giving them your credit card information so they can buy this $1 thing to get them out of your hair, and then being surprised when a kid who's probably, and that's one thing that's interesting about it, they're about addiction. It's like, yeah, this probably is a kid who's either been bullied or who's either been bullied at school saying, well, you don't have this. And he's just in his room like, I'm going to keep doing this $1 loot box until I get this item so I can finally tell these kids at school.
You feel gratification.
I have this item. Yeah, and if it's not that, then you have the gambling part where it's like,
that's the thing is that it's a lose-lose situation for the kid too, because guess what? If he can't buy the loot box, he gets bullied at school because he doesn't have the coolest thing. And like it's an ongoing problem that there is no solving. And for the record, I don't think that any kind of game causes violence or mental issues in kids who already don't have those. I think that if you are a person with mental deep mental illnesses, and something like this could affect your psyche. That's one problem. That's a completely different topic.
It's that the game is more able to feed into something that you already have a tendency towards. So if you have an addictive personality, which plenty of people do, I think, or this allows you the ability to easily do it. But all games do that. Even if you want to say free of money, there's a lot of games that go, well, it's about you being addicted to playing it. Even if it's like an in-game lotto that has no real money, it's like you earn in-game credits and then do it. It's still a thing where it's like, I just want to see what I can get.
Right. And I don't have problems with loot boxes either. Like, that's the other side of this coin of this story, is that I don't think that they're necessarily predatory for adults, but the problem is that the way that this bill is worded and how they want to regulate it is that no matter what you do, you're not going to get kids from buying Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty and all those other M-rated games. Their parents are going to buy them anyways. They're going to be in the game regardless. The only thing that this is a catch-22. It's all it is. And that's the problem with this. And I think that we are looking into this for the wrong reasons. And I don't think that putting blame at the developers or whatever for doing this for predatory for the kids,
Well, I also think it's another thing.
Where's the accountability for the parents?
Yeah, and
that's
the
my
other
biggest
thing is, by using the terminology developers so loosely, I don't think a lot of the time this comes down to specifically the developers, when it often comes down to specifically the publisher. And that's the thing, is that a lot of these people who are trying to write these bills, a lot of them, I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them don't know a thing about the video game world. Yeah, I don't know who the senator is. I don't know how much he knows about it either.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say he doesn't know anything about video games, but I'm just saying that a lot of the times adults way up in government and stuff trying to think of things for video games, and they don't know what they're doing.
Let's go to something else that we know they've done, partially video games, right? A recent example of that is people who, anybody in the US or maybe even Canada, if you pay attention to us for some reason, or anybody who pays attention, I don't know if anybody saw the Facebook hearings and everything that were going on, but it was just a bunch of old people who had no clue how Facebook worked, asking a bunch of questions that were obvious answers. And it was so funny. A lot of people made fun of old dude Zuckerberg because of the way he was looking and responding. And it was weird, but he was also having to answer questions that most people know if you understand anything about technology at all. But you have these older people who are really disconnected from what's going on in the modern day society of people who are in the age group of, 10 to and even younger, if you want to say 8 to 40.
I would
say,
what I mean? Around 40.
8 to 50. I mean, really, there's a lot of people that because they've given themselves the ability to take that kind of plunge, they say that. They go, okay, well, I want to learn how to use Facebook because I want to use Facebook, so I'm going to do it. But then you have these old senators who have no clue what's going on. Be like, well, can you or can't you? So, but that's exactly Saul's example, is that you have people who are out of touch with what they're trying to affect, and that doesn't make sense. It's like you should not be trying to affect things that you don't have an actual grasp on.
Right. And I just think it's like, that's where I'm going to leave the conversation for me, at least, because it's can of worms.
I'm with you, though. I think
there's so many sides and edges to the story.
I do see that. I do get the reason that people are wanting to be like, yes, stop developers from being able to do this. But the issue, at least that this bill specifically proposes, is not something that needs to be handled from a legal measure as much as it needs to be handled from a societal measure. This needs to be something that I agree with Saul right now. Based off of all the information I've seen, I think this does clearly fall down on a lack of solid parenting. And whatever, and it doesn't mean that they're a bad parent for it necessarily, but it's definitely something that they need to change around.
But they're not being held accountable for it. And that's the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think if
the blame is being tossed in the wrong direction.
Right. And I know it's kind of hypocritical coming from me who doesn't have a kid, but if I had a kid who had access to anything that had my credit card on it, first of all, you're going to need a password to use it. You're going to need, I get text for every time I swipe my card. So I'm going to know that you just used my credit card. And then B, you're going to get the grounding of your life, and you're probably going to get banned from whatever service you just bought that on, because I'm going to charge it back. And that's your punishment. And that's the thing, is that but people every day, kids just go on Xbox or PS4 and buy Fortnite skins or V-Bucks or whatever without their parents' permission.
And obviously Fortnite's the biggest game I think this will be
which is coincidental, not M-rated.
Yeah. So this is actually a game, but then the way he also did it's a very broad term. He just said kids, and he also went as far as to say that by kids who are 18 or under. Well, that's mature. And in the United States, you only have to be 17 to buy mature games on your own. So that means that mature games would also be subject to this. That's why it becomes an issue of, and I'm not saying, again, that, I mean, in the end result of this and saying that you don't want people to be able to do pay to win stuff, yeah, that's a nice thing, but the way that you're getting there is not right.
Right.
Or, in my opinion.
It's just, it's a mess.
Two more things, and then we will move along. As part of its earnings call, EA revealed that the new Need for Speed game set to release this year will again go back, and they've said this a million times, but who knows? We'll see. At E3, I assume, when they announce it. The game will go back towards the cops versus racer roots of the series. That's exactly what we heard with 2015's Need for Speed, which was a fine game in its own. I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed Payback, but Payback was nothing to do with realistically cops versus street racers.
I was gonna say, is that really the roots of the series? It's not really.
Yeah, it is.
Underground?
No, but street racing has always been a thing. It's just been fancy cars on roads you're not supposed to, and cops.
Was there cops chasing you in Underground 1 or 2?
Yeah, there was an Underground 1 and 2. There were cops.
Were they chasing?
And now that's Underground. Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
But that goes all the way back as far as, and here, I'll show you.
See, I thought that started
Need
with
for
the...
Speed 2 Hot Pursuit.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I thought that started with
This
Hot
was a
Pursuit.
PS2 game. PS1 game, I'm sorry. Or a PS2 game, one of the two.
I'll say it's not a PS1 game.
I think it was on PS1 still.
Was it?
Pretty sure. Let's go real quick and check.
I did not think that this series surpasses or predates the PS2.
So it was a very early PS2 game, but it was a sequel to Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit was what it was. This was Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit was on the PS1 in 98.
So much older than I thought it was.
It's very old. I
thought this game premiered on PS2 with Underground. Well, not Underground. I knew that there was one before Underground.
Underground was its explosion.
Yes. Underground's when I've, of course, played it. So that's where I found out about it.
Yeah, it's definitely came in. The series has been around since 94.
You learn something new every day. I did not know that either. Yeah. So, yeah, you learn something new every single day.
So we'll see. This is a lot like when you're listening to bands and they've been around for 20 years and they're like, this next album's going to really go back to our roots, and they always name back the album that people love by them. So of course,
and
like
it never goes back to the
an
roots.
Example, Slipknot's new album, they're like, oh yeah, we're going back and kind of doing Iowa, and who knows, it might. I'm not going to say anything until it happens, but people really want to live on them glory days. All right, last thing up, 2 new PSVR bundles are hitting stores this month for anybody who has been waiting for a good bundle to hop in. With one bundle consisting of the headset, 2 Move controllers, the camera, Blood and Truth, which is a new game coming out, in a physical copy of that, and Everybody's Golf VR in a digital voucher for $349.99. The other bundle includes the headset, camera, and digital vouchers for Trover Saves the Universe, which is a new Crows game, and that's playable VR or non-VR, and Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, which is a new, I think it's kind of like a remake of all of them together with VR support, and that one's $299.99. If you had to get my interpretation of this, the better deal would be the one that includes 2 Move controllers and Blood and Truth, which is a full-on game for this, as well as Everybody's Golf VR. That seems like a better hit to me, if you want to spend $50 more and get a lot more, because the Move controllers are useful in a lot of games. So that is it, and I guess that now takes us into the main topic that we are doing, which is E3 games. Now, this is not going to necessarily be E3 predictions, and I've been really thinking. I haven't had a chance to talk Saul too much this week. I don't know that I even want to do an E3 predictions video this year.
I don't, because first of all, Sony won't really be there. This is kind of more so almost this video will act upon it in a way, because we're going to predict what we see there. We're going to say what we want to see there.
Some of the things that we know will be there that I'm excited to see, I want to talk about. Some of the things that I hope are announced, I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
and just so people know that this is not exactly like we are a PlayStation podcast, and a lot of these games are going to be played on PlayStation, but we're going to have to be referencing the Xbox, the Square, the Bethesda, these conferences
because they're going to be.
PlayStation won't have one. So this is not really going to contain a lot of PlayStation exclusives in this talk. This is more third party or not.
Yeah,
third party
or second party games
because
this could be one of those
multi-platform, but I don't know where third party came from.
Yeah,
that works.
So multi-platform works too. So, I think this would kind of be. It covers things like when Square came out with the Nier Automata thing, and Nier Automata was a console exclusive for PS4 for a long time. So, and that was a PS4 by nature. So, yeah, it's like PlayStation will be there just by nature of what they are and being the biggest platform. All the third parties will talk about them, Ubisoft, EA, everybody, Activision. We'll see all that. So
I really think we're going to see some cool stuff out of potentially Metro Exodus, a trailer from that, maybe a Cyberpunk trailer. There's a rumor there's a new Dying Light and thing. I'm going to predict we're going to see that. we need to do.
Are we predicting E3 2018 now?
2018, yeah. What we need to do.
That's the easiest way to do it.
We need to do an episode where like we record it now, but we release it way in the future, and we just try to guess things. Like, yeah, dude, the PS5, I can't believe it sets fire, and just have it like Rooster Teeth did that in a podcast, like where they pre-recorded episode like 300 or something, and then they aired it, and then people are like, well, why are they at the old set? And then they're talking about it, and they're talking about like things that they think is going to be out in the future, but it's not. And it's just like, what are they talking about? They're talking about spaceships and stuff. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So that'd be fun. But
well, who knows? We might end up doing that. But before we move anywhere further, it just makes me think of South Park, Captain Hindsight. I don't know if you ever saw those episodes, but it's like the guy who exists be like, well, you should have done this. It's like, thanks, Captain Hindsight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, what we're going to go ahead and do is head over and plop
South Park,
into the community's take question, probably season 12, 13.
Yeah.
Maybe later than that. It's been a long time since I'm not up to date with the newest season because I'm just very behind. I need to watch it. I got Hulu. I can do it. All right. The community stake question, which we put out, last week for everybody, was with E3 about a month away. What games are you most excited to see, regardless of whether it's already been announced to be there or you just hope to see it there? So what's great about this is that I think what we'll do is kind of organically interweave some of the things that we want to talk about into this. So the topic at large will be interweaved with the community's take, and it's just going to be a full thing. So I'm going to start off, and then we'll kind of just branch. If there's things that someone brings up that we're also excited for, we'll branch out and discuss them. So we'll start things off with Mr. Gideon on gaming, Mr. Gid, as he has his Twitter at. He says, I think I'm most excited for part 3 of No Man's Sky Beyond. Now, I'm with him. Now, not most excited, but it's one of those things where because of the fact that it's partially something which is No Man's Sky, and we know 2 of the 3 puzzle pieces right now.
Right, for the ARG.
Mm-hmm. The third one is the thing that gets really weird because it's like, well, what's the third one going to be? It's like, because we know 2 of the 3 aspects, it's almost like my excitement is built towards that because it's a product I already know that I like and enjoy. It's a product that I know I'll go back to. The other 2 things already have me excited for anybody who doesn't remember. That is No Man's Sky Online and No Man's Sky VR. So those are the first 2 parts of the No Man's Sky Beyond update. The third part is up for grabs for anybody, So
it's going to be I'm going to call it.
Go ahead.
Could be underwater expeditions, like with full-on underwater ecosystems on each planet with their own sea creatures and sea caverns, and it's gonna be Subnautica. Like I really like
that would actually not be a bad idea.
I would go back to that for like a Subnautica style, like horror experience almost. Mm-hmm. Just different planets have different alien beings underwater and stuff.
I continue to rest on my hope, and part of that comes in from the fact that I think part 1 of No Man's Sky Beyond makes this possible finally, right? So No Man's Sky Next, which was the one that introduced online play to an extent, but you could have 4 players in the same thing. The problem with 4 players in the same thing is it's not broad enough to do my big dream for No Man's Sky that I've talked about on the show. I've talked about it on Twitter with people. I've talked to Gideon about it specifically. But this goes back into, I think that No Man's Sky Online, the great part about it is that it introduces the ability to do what I've always wanted from the series, which is to introduce a job system that makes sense within the game's confines.
Bounty hunter, miner.
So one thing that we've talked about since the game came out wouldn't it be awesome if one day there can be a trader, essentially. And that's what I always bring up is there can be a trader who just essentially has his ship and goes and flies around and carries big cargo. So you have the freighters in the game. So you can be a freighter, essentially a freighter captain. Have your freighter where you actually load it up with precious materials that you buy or mine yourself and cost a lot of money. And then the idea is for you to travel to another system, to another planet specifically, where those things go for a higher rate so that you can sell them as a commodity there at a higher rate. And by successfully doing so, you end up getting a lot of money out of it. Now, the way that this is very much based off of a game that I'm now referencing 3 episodes in a row, Silk Road Online. But it's a great system, and I think it makes sense by moving it into space. The way that Silk Road Online worked would be that there would be a trader who would mount up their big, you get essentially a big camel mount or a bull mount that have a bunch of satchels. You'd buy a bunch of items from one of the game's major cities, and then what you'd have to do is you'd have to travel, couldn't fast travel at all, you'd have to travel all the way through to the other city on foot, And when you got to the other city, because it wasn't a normal item for that city, it was considered a commodity, and you'd sell it and make money.
So you would probably not be able to space jump, but you'd be able to just fly your ship there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So that'd be the way it'd work out. And the way that ends up happening, the way that they make it work, is that during the traveling, what can happen is, of course, a thief, or in this situation, we'll call them pirates.
Yeah, space pirates.
So space pirates, and this would be really fun for co-op if you think about that. So me and Saul all log on and we say, okay, me, you, Blaze, and somebody else, right? 4 of us all get together and go, we're going to be space pirates. We're going to go out in space and look for people who are doing these runs, right? And what we're going to do is all team up and we're going to make sure that we attack this freighter, blow it up, and that's how we're going to get money, because then we take those goods and take them to a fence, and then the fence gives us money for them, right? So, again, there's a risk-reward thing for across the board. Now, the third leg of that and how it comes in is that there would be somebody in Silk Road. It's the trader, the hunter, and the thief. The hunter acts as a protector for the trader. So what would happen is whoever's doing the freight would hire either one or multiple groups of people to essentially be protectors for them. And what would happen is they'd fly alongside the freighter, and then if any pirates were to attack like we would be, then they would be fighting us, and we would be what would be in between them. So again, risk reward. So for Saul and I and our whole group that are pirates, we would have to take out the protectors as well as get through the ship's defenses.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
And see, that would create
being able to steal materials and weapons.
It would make a use for the economy, because right now the game has an economy, but it's not really that important. Right? So it'd make a use for the economy. It'd make it online, global scale. You'd have to where you're already online with a sect of people. Now, of course, it'd be like any other online game where there's instances, but that's how it would work. And whenever much like what happens in Silk Road, is you'd have to put on an item. So if you wanted to be the thief, you'd have to put on the thief's clothing. And if you wanted to be a trader, you'd have to put on the trading clothing and you'd do your mount. And that's what made it to where people could attack you. Outside of that, if you're just walking, they can't attack you. So it's like you have to don the things.
PvP items that you have to put on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how you do it. We'd get in our ships and we say, well, we're going to be pirates. Now, to introduce the ability for people to screw us up, it would be, okay, we're going to put these things on. We'll mark our ships as pirate ships by putting something on them that you have to equip to your ship. And then the other people who are hunters or whatever, the protectors, would equip an item to their ship, which would show that they were protectors.
That'd be kind of cool. So it's almost like what they did in Destiny 2 with the Gambit stuff. Like you glow colors, and like you see that specific kind of ship, and you're like, I better run. That's a pirate ship.
Exactly.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So that's my hope for it, and we'll see what that ends up being. I also like the idea of Subnautica, though.
Bring back. It was never in the game, but kind of, but underwater exploration.
Yeah.
It's in the game.
It was intended
shallow.
to be in the game, and then it wasn't for a long time, and then it came back in the game, but shallowly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
shallow. You like my pun there?
I do. All right, let's see. Mr. Derek, a patron, thank you, good sir, says more game footage and an actual release date for the Final Fantasy VII Remake.
100% agree.
Well, guess what, buddy? You already got part of that.
July 24th.
And we also know that we're going to see more of the game come June. So you're going to see something. You're going to see game footage for sure. Actual release date, I'm still curious on, but I think that they will. I think they will. I've said this from the get-go. The way that Square has always done is they want their major game to get out of the way before they do anything else. They did this with 15. They did not want to talk about, when it got to time for 15 to go into its shining mode and be the one game they're talking about, they went radio silent on Kingdom Hearts 3 until after 15 came out. Then we started hearing about Kingdom Hearts 3 again about 6 months later. This is exactly what they're doing here. They went radio silent on 7, let Kingdom Hearts 3 come out, nothing steals its thunder. Bam, 6 months later, or roughly 6 months later, bunch of information and potentially even a release date. But that's also why I think, because Tetsuya Nomura just moved over back into full-time on that game, though he was kind of straddling the both, that's part of why I think this game, Part 1, could be this year, late, or maybe early next year into the Kingdom Hearts spot, where it would essentially be like releasing the game a full year later.
I could see that. I just don't want it.
I don't necessarily want it either, but it may be for the best of the game to make sure that it gets everything in, gives it time that it needs, and it also may make more sense for the company. But either way, it comes down to, regardless of which of those two areas that it releases in, be it Q4 of this year or Q1 of next year, that's still in this fiscal year for Square. And a couple episodes back, we talked about Square saying that they had a big game that was going to hit this fiscal year. So it seems very likely that Part 1 releases now. Are you going to release it within this fiscal year?
July 24th. I don't know, like, for those that don't know, we will be streaming still the major, That's what I'm about to ask you on stream. Are you taking your vacation for E3?
I haven't talked to Jill, but it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, cool. Because what we're planning on is, and we were just talking about that before the show. We're like, well, we can't do Nintendo and we can't do so. We still plan on streaming our live feed and reactions to all of them if we can get it. For sure, for certain, Bethesda and Xbox. And then now Square, because Square moved into Sony slot.
Good.
It's 6 p.m. 8 p.m.
Yeah, our time.
Our time on Monday. So they took Sony slot, which is good.
Okay.
Because I think they did theirs at like 1 p.m. last year.
I think it was the next day too, or was it the same day as Sony's? I can't remember.
It's the same day as Sony's, if I remember correctly.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad that they moved back to there, but I also am curious to see what Square does with their E3.
Me too.
They're kind of.
It has to be about Final Fantasy 7 or majority of it, and then maybe some unreleased stuff. Like
is this year the Nier Automata sequel and or the remake of the original?
Hopefully. I hope.
I hope so too.
That's one of our hopes.
Yeah, that is definitely one of my hopes, to see Nier get to continue in some form or fashion, considering how well Automata did. I don't care if it's a brand new full-on sequel or if it's a remake for the very lesser played. Here's my reasoning as to why I think it's possible we see in Nier either remaster or remake. Automata did so good that there became a demand for the original Nier in the UK to a point where people were having problems finding it, so Square went as far as to reprint the game. Yeah. On PS3, midway through the PS4's generation, of a game that was a failure in its own generation because of the love that Automata got.
So
this would be the time.
Fix things.
This would be the time to do that.
Liam says AC Vikings and, of course, Final Fantasy 7.
Got Final Fantasy 7 covered. Now, here's the only thing about AC Vikings, because I know a lot of people are going to say it. I don't think we see it this year. The one reason is...
If it's Vikings, I will probably buy it. I like Viking stuff, and
if it's too similar to Odyssey,
I didn't play Odyssey.
So Odyssey was fun enough, but not enough for me to spend. I spent $27 on it, so I'm fine. But if I would have spent $60 on it,
I could see that.
It became too repetitive.
Well, yeah, and also the grind problem.
Yeah, the grind. Well, that was why it became repetitive. Is the grind?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
It was like, if the grind was not a problem, if the game would have continued to feed me interesting parts of the story, but instead it kept trying to put those behind walls where I'd have to play for an extended period, getting no real story information that mattered in the main story, and it's like that starts to wear on you. And that's just my own personal experience, but I do hope to see. The other thing would be that this is most likely the team that did Origins, and Origins I did not have that problem in at all.
Good, because I would actually look forward to a Viking game. Like, it's really good. On the same page as Final Fantasy 7, though, Oyaji Lover says any RPG.
Yeah.
So, and I'm actually, you know what? I am really craving a turn-based Switch game, like really, really bad. So anything Nintendo can announce for that. And I know Fire Emblem's coming out soon, which is...
What do you think the chances are...
RTS.
What do you think the chances are that we see Project Octopath come to PS4? And announced during Square's E3?
I would say like 40 to 50%.
I think so too, because it's already on PC now.
Yeah, it's on PC now, and I do think that if
that would have given it about a year exclusivity.
I recommend anybody play that game. By the way, if that ever comes to PS4, that is a must-have for any fan of Final Fantasy, old school Final Fantasy.
Sure,
games.
yeah,
100%.
So that very well might be something you see, Oyaji Lover. We'll see. That's an RPG now. I don't know if you want to go action or not, but you're already getting a little bit of that with Final Fantasy 7.
And we have Astral Chain, which is more of a JRPG, if I had to guess.
From everything that it looks like, it's an action JRPG.
Yeah. So.
And made by the director on it, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the head designers of Nier Automata.
Platinum. Or from Platinum, right?
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Mr. Wigfield78 says a new Ratchet and Clank or Jack and Daxter, but that never happened. So The Last of Us Part 2 playable demo is what he wants. One thing I'll say is that, of course, we're not going to get The Last of Us Part 2, sadly, because Sony's not there in any capacity, not even on the show floor. Now, what we might see is post E3, be it in June still, late June, or maybe even July, we might get a state of play that finally gives us a release date for The Last of Us Part 2.
I would guess, like I said earlier, like June. It's going to be when we hear about that.
We'll see. We will see. But as far as a new Ratchet and Clank or Jack and Daxter, sadly, those are still all exclusive, so the chances of them being revealed at E3 specifically are low, but I do think there's a good chance that we get another Ratchet & Clank. I already thought that because the game did so well. Insomniac has multiple teams that could have easily been working on a secondary one, and, of course, there is the more recent information where Colin Moriarty, who does of course, have people in the industry who give him information has said we've not seen the last of Ratchet and Clank on PS4.
Right.
And I've already thought that for a long time. So I think all that information together, I do think we get a swan song sequel, or who knows what they're going to do with it. I assume they're going to do a sequel reimagining of the second game again and just kind of keep going in that route. But we'll see. I really doubt that we'll get another movie because the movie did not do good, but the game did.
The movie did absolutely terrible.
Yep, but the game did good, so that's all that matters. Let's see.
Was the game free on PS Plus?
Yes, it was.
I have that game. I know I didn't buy it.
Oh, have you not played it?
I played like 2 hours of it.
It's really good.
I played 2 hours of it
but it's also like when you're playing it, it's like it's really good, but I'm so glad they priced it at $40.
Oh yeah, and it was good enough that it kept my interest while I was doing something else, like updating Destiny or something, and I had fun with it while I did. But then of course Destiny updated, and I just
back to your labor of love.
That was way back when. Actually, it might have been Dark Souls 3 or something. I don't know. I was playing one game in particular, and I was updating or something, and I got lost in the game for 2 hours. So that tells you I had a good time with it.
Yeah, sure.
Haven't been compelled to go back and finish it.
All right, let's see. Mr. No Fate says, I'd like to know what some of those 50-plus games are that THQ Nordic is working on and what's happening with Time Splitters. And then Mr. Derek responded with Time Splitters was one of those games that didn't get much attention but was so much fun back in the day. Time Splitters is a great game.
Time Splitters 2 on
for the time.
I think. Yeah, for the time. It does not age well.
It does not age well. And it's just one of those sad realities. But I think that the premise works. And if you move it forward with much better mechanics and utilize new hardware, you can make a great game. As for the rest of what THQ Nordic is working on, I'm very curious to see what those are as well. Some of them are things that I think that I know because THQ and I can't remember the name of the company that bought it, but I really think we see a new Saints Row. Here, I don't know.
But Saints with a V, doesn't it?
Yeah, whoever bought them. Oh no, well the developer started with a V. I don't know why I can't think of that. But I think also who bought them started with a V. But either way, THQ Nordic and that company merged. So THQ Nordic does have, please correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, Saints Row is under the THQ Nordic thing. So at that particular setup, I do think that it's time that we start to see another Saints Row. They've even mentioned it recently that we haven't seen the end of the series. So this might be the place to announce it. Might be. We're not going to see anything new from Darksiders for a while because Darksiders 3 continues to get updated, and that's great. The game seems to have sold to expectations, so a Darksiders 4 is very likely,
I'm thinking
but next year. Volition was the developer.
Yeah,
yes.
That's what I was thinking of in terms of the V.
Yeah.
But our last one on Twitter, at least, was our good boy Blake, and he said something I think we're all in agreement with. He says, cheat answer, I'm legit excited for everything. Best time of the year. If I had to pick one, probably the new AC game. So, yeah, I am really excited because this is a really big curveball of a year. We don't really know what we're getting. We really are in place for some surprises. Excuse me. I'm trying my best not to hiccup, but I'm trying my best not to let my expectations just a million miles out of my head.
Sure.
But I do think it's going to be a good year.
Okay, let's see. I agree with that, but I will also say this again on the AC game. I didn't get it out a second ago, but it seems like a good time as any to reiterate that Ubisoft have already confirmed that Odyssey and Origin started development essentially similar times. So those being back to back was because of that, and they were meant to be that way. But they said they're going to be another year break between AC Odyssey and the next AC, very similar to what we had between AC Syndicate and AC Origins. So while they could technically show it off this year, that's not the Ubisoft way. They would typically show the game off the year of release. So if they do, I'm excited for you, but I'm pretty sure we get to wait. So we'll see what happens, Blake and Mr. Liam. But I say just don't hold your breath because you might get blue.
I need to hold my breath to get rid of these hiccups. Our good buddy Sean, who is a patron, Mr. Rude Gold, he says, not that, he says, definitely want to see more of BioMutant. Seems like that game has a little been lacking lately.
So it seems the info has been a little lacking lately.
I know, I can't talk and I'm getting distracted. I apologize. We're the most professional podcast in the world.
I hope that people are just sitting there like, did he just drink a shit ton of rum and just...
I sure didn't. No, I would
you ever see
probably be asleep.
You sound like the old mouse off of. Did you ever see any of the old things of Tom and Jerry, where the other mouse, the Three Musketeers, one that they did, and he was drunk, and yeah, that's what you sound like.
But
or also the little what is it, the Spanish rat or whatever? Didn't he get drunk on something too? Looney Tunes is
I
good
think
stuff,
so.
and so is even though that's not technically Looney Tunes, but those old cartoons are.
Well, BioMutant looks
funny.
like good stuff. And
BioMutant looks great.
Corey, another patron, thank you, my boy, is in agreement saying easily the game I'm looking forward to the most. I'm gonna need a release date.
I think we get one. I think we get one, and I'd say that game continues to be super interesting to me. Every time they've showed it, it looks really interesting and unique. And I mean, every time they put out a trailer, I comb through it and see the weird stuff that I can find because it just has a lot of unique takes to it. Now, this is a team that you wouldn't expect this from. This is people who used to work as a team that made the Just Cause series. I don't know why I'm skipping on their name off the top of my head right now. Avalanche. I think it's ex-Avalanche people and ex-Battlefield people. So people from DICE. And I do want to double check on that because I don't want to be spreading too much misinformation. But I remember thinking it was so interesting that's what the makeup of it was. Let's see. Stockholm, Sweden. So that's why. So it's definitely ex-DICE developers, if nothing else. They don't have their own Wikipedia page. So I at least know, yes, it is people who used to work on Battlefield at the very least. And I think some ex-Avalanche people are here. But this is a very different game for them.
Yeah,
can you imagine coming off of Battlefield and coming over into
a third person, like...
Yeah, RPG.
What is it called when you play as like a furry creature?
Oh, you talking about whenever you make a animal or something have human-like characteristics?
Yeah.
Anthropomorphic.
Anthropomorphic, that's right.
Yeah, so
it's a completely different kind of game.
I know some people hate those, but I love them.
I don't hate them. It just depends on the game. There are some games I just don't like.
Because I'm super into Sly Cooper. And super into Ratchet and Clank, which Ratchet and Clank is essentially the idea. Huh?
So you're forgetting about Crash there, but it's okay.
Oh, but he's not anthropomorphic because he's never talked himself.
I mean,
but he's
noises.
anthropomorphic in the sense that he stands up on 2 feet. So, yeah, he's kind of in between.
Yeah, he makes noises that I don't think animals can make.
Whoa! Oh, man.
But I'm in agreement with all these from our community. I'm really excited to see what we get from Final Fantasy VII, unless it's not a release date. Honestly, I was kind of disappointed in the new trailer because it did not have a release date, even though I don't know why I thought it would.
I wouldn't have expected a release date out of the State of Play one.
Yeah.
When E3 is right around the corner. But I will say we have a couple more on Facebook I want to get to.
Oh, yeah.
One of them is, you don't have one, so I get it. It's okay. Michael Scott Schneider, which is, if I'm not mistaken, this is his first time reaching out and communicating, which, if so, thank you. And if not, then I'm sorry I forgot the other one. But he says, I would kill for a Splinter Cell similar to Chaos Theory. And here's the big thing about Splinter Cell. They've talked about it a lot recently. They've gone as far as to show there's a Splinter Cell cameo in tons of their games. Most recently, they had the Sam Fisher suit in Far Cry New Dawn in a plane wreck in one of the expeditions that you can go to.
And he was in Wildlands.
Yeah, so I think that it's definitely possible. Saul needs to go give himself seppuku so he can get rid of these hiccups. But anyway, Sudoku, I'm sorry, yes, the long-running thing. Anyway, see, next thing up is Mr. Vincent Hull says Last of Us 2 for sure. I'm also curious if there will be any updates on Final Fantasy VII Remake or possibly new IPs from Square Enix. And that's why I'm glad he said that, because while I don't think that we're going to see too much new IPs from Square, definitely after Left Alive seemed to kind of drop down, that was slightly different. It would be interesting to see if we finally get some kind of a new IP out of Square proper, like their normal development teams that are in-house.
I agree. Seeing something new from them would be really refreshing.
Well, it's been so long, right? It's like we've seen, depending on what happens.
Was a breath of fresh air. Just because it's not something you see every day. And then the things, almost like the Bravely Default style system, Bravely Default was
another new IP.
So if they can come out the gates with something 3/4 as good as those games, I'm gonna be happy.
Yeah. Well, and dude, they've had so many teasers. There was one that people were saying was going to be a Final Fantasy 16 teaser.
No, absolutely not.
And it wasn't it. But it was a tech demo that was directly from Square, and it had the little weird, like, robot thing. Hold on, I have to find it.
I do know that they're going to show off the new Final Fantasy 14 update. I'm sure that's going to be there, the new expansion.
I think it's this one, Agni's Philosophy.
Never mind. I don't know what that is.
Dude, no, hold on. This one's old, isn't it? Yeah, this was 2012. I'm sorry. It was one after this.
Yeah, it was a newer, updated one.
And it had, like, mannequins.
Yeah.
Yes, this is it right here. Dude, It is so cool. It is just a visual thing. If you want to check it out, what I'm looking at on YouTube specifically is Square Enix new prototype demo trailer 2018. This came out. This is VisualWorks character prototype. So this is literally just showing their CG and stuff. But this premise is so cool that it'd be really cool to see, like exactly like Vince is saying, them actually like try and take a play on something that's just wildly new for them. A lot of their new IP has been harkening back to some of their older days.
Which is good.
Even then, Square Enix is such a broad company at this point because they got all the SquareSoft stuff, and then they have series like Parasite Eve, the third birthday. For some reason, the first thing that popped in my head. But they have the Parasite Eve. They've got tons of old franchises that they've not touched that they could either come back with and do something new with, like maybe a new Parasite Eve this year.
They have Life is Strange.
Yeah, and that's more from their Western side.
Right.
I guess I should say that I'm specifically talking about Square Enix's Japanese division.
Yeah,
I would like to see their Japanese division go way more in depth and do something interesting, even if it's something that ties back in. Parasite Eve is a pretty interesting franchise, and they could do something that ties into that style, if not a new Parasite Eve, and still be so different than anything they've done recently.
Right.
Because most of, like you said, their new IPs are things like Bravely Default and Octopath Traveler, which are weird takes that they tread some new ground, but they are very much relying on also nostalgia and things they know people already like, and that have been utilized recently. Final Fantasy's had turn-based games still. When you think about all the DS games, 3DS games that have been going through, they have, and then Bravely Default came on 3DS pretty early on, like 2012, I think, and then Bravely Second, or whatever it was called, came in like 2017.
The Bravely Second I actually picked up on clearance at Target for $20, and it was a pretty cool game.
So anyway, this is super cool, and I just think that I think that there's something cool. Even the Agnes Philosophy demo, which is when they showed off the Luminous engine for the first time, that has the girl with red hair pulled back and the blood all over her face and whatnot. If you haven't seen that, go check that out as well. I think that it's time to start doing exactly what Detroit did, like Saul was saying, and turn something that was originally just a tech demo into a full game, because we've seen that it can work and that people are really interested in it. Why not try it out? Bam. And this would be a cool way to do it. The Agnes Philosophy feels a little more like traditional Square Enix to me, but I would still take it as a new IP, and it'd be interesting to see them tread new ground, because what we've seen them do in recent years is try and do what Capcom's been doing and revive some of their long-running franchises in a way that people are finally liking. Dragon Quest XI did really well at bringing the Dragon Quest name back big in the West, and it did really well over here, surprisingly, and that's awesome. Even though it played very much like a traditional Dragon Quest. That's good. Final Fantasy VII Remake will hopefully be their stepping stone into people across the board loving Final Fantasy, a new Final Fantasy game, instead of 15 that was kind of divisive.
Yeah, and honestly, like,
despite sales though, 15 sold well.
Speaking of like fan theories revolving around this trailer in 16, I do think it is interesting to say like what we saw in Kingdom Hearts 3 for that trailer would be kind of cool to speculate as a new game. I doubt it 100%, but it would be cool.
Yeah, it would be cool.
Moving away from Square Enix though, I am really excited, like, because everything we mentioned so far will fit into the for sure category. I'm really excited to see more Cyberpunk that I definitely know Xbox will have there.
Yeah.
I'm really, and this one really doesn't pertain to PlayStation, but I'm really excited for Halo Infinite. I really want to see what it is. Not getting my hopes up because it's made by 343, and I did not like 5 at all.
Yeah, but I liked 4, and 4 was the first time that 343 were really heavily involved by themselves.
They were involved a little bit in Reach.
Yeah, they were involved in Reach, but 343's first full-on game they did completely by themselves was 4, and 4 was fine.
And I hope they heard from complaints about 5.
It seems like they have.
But yeah, we got so much in store for us. Like, Cyberpunk is the main one that I am excited for. I do hope there is a new RPG of some sort that Square reveals that they're working on. We probably won't see it till 2028, but who knows? I'm excited nonetheless.
One thing that we've completely left out of this that I'm curious is, do you have any hopes from Bethesda?
No, absolutely not.
What do you even expect from
Bethesda? Okay, so I expect a teaser trailer, another CGI teaser for Elder Scrolls 6. However,
you think so?
I know so. What else are they going to bring? They've been crucified so much this past year, and they just recently got messed up.
But they're going to get more crucified if they keep showing the same game just with CGI trailers.
They know, though, that they're
Do you not think they would show Starfield first, since that game's actually coming before Elder Scrolls 6?
I think that they're going to lead off with Elder Scrolls 6, and here's why. They have been caught up with the controversy of Fallout 76, and lots of it. It's just not one thing; it's multiple.
And then Fallout in general, like that Fallout Rum Cola and things.
Right? Yeah.
Who knows how big those actually were?
But now they had this whole plagiarizing thing hitting them, which is nuts.
And that was specifically about Elder Scrolls.
Well, at first I thought it meant the fan was making this stuff, and then I was talking to Joe on chat, and he was like, "No, dude." He's like, "Bethesda's the one that plagiarized them."
Yes,
but
now this was interesting. It's specifically Bethesda Netherlands.
Right. It's not this. It's not because there's Bethesda Softworks, which is the dev team.
Yep.
And then there's Bethesda, which is just
Softworks Austin, which is their new one that made Fallout 76. Yeah, but I'm saying
they have Austin. They have 3 locations, if I remember correctly.
No, they just have Austin and their Maryland one, which is Bethesda, Maryland. Yes.
Okay. I thought for some reason they had 3.
I think you're thinking of BioWare.
No.
Which BioWare does have 3.
I know BioWare has 3. I really thought Bethesda had 3, but yeah, I think that they're going to have to lead off strong into E3, and I think Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be the way to go. It's going to be a more cinematic CGI trailer, because here's the thing. There are a lot of casual fans of the series that aren't necessarily connected to gaming even half as much as we are. They hear Elder Scrolls and they played Skyrim, and that's really to the extent of their gaming. They're going to go nuts. They don't care that Fallout 76 is in shambles right now. Even though it is,
I get that, but you don't think that they care that the game's not even in the next 3 years of
I'm
releasing?
not saying they're not going to show Starfield, because I have a feeling they're going to show Starfield. They're just going to lead off with Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, fair enough.
They're going to show Doom, of course. We're going to get the new Doom.
Doom Eternal.
But realistically, I'm not really, Bethesda is slowly, making me hate them. And that is from a person who loves all their games.
Yeah.
Except Fallout 76.
The biggest thing for me is that I know Dishonored's gone. So, but I guess what I would hope to see specifically from Bethesda at this particular point, I am most interested to see what they have Arcane working on.
Yeah, Arcane needs.
Because I miss Dishonored, and I don't. It's not that I want more Dishonored. It was a great series.
Honestly, a trilogy.
What do you mean?
A trilogy.
I mean,
all in one.
Yeah, it essentially got one.
No, I'm talking about a bundle. A collection.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I'm talking about kind of new from them.
Well,
what I really like to see.
You already got the
collectors.
Dope collectors.
Yeah,
one of the
Dishonored too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. So I don't know. We'll see, because I like Arcane, but their last game, because Arcane has 2 places as well, and Arcane has Austin.
Dallas.
I can't remember the other one.
Or is it Austin? I thought it was Dallas.
I think it's Austin. I could be wrong on that one, but either way, it's in Texas. And Arcane had Prey going at the same time as Dishonored 2. So I would really want to see what the Dishonored 2 team has been working on outside of Death of the Outsider, and flip that and see what they're doing next, and maybe even what the Prey team is doing. But I like them. They're an interesting developer, and even though Prey didn't really catch me by any standard, I'm still curious to see what they have. But a couple more ones that we have over here on the Facebook. Mr. Jeff Roberts, also a long-time listener, says, Gears 5, so much like Saul, something that's not necessarily PlayStation related. I recently beat Gears 4 and can't wait to see where the story goes from there. But also Rainbow Six Siege, as well as Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Now, Breakpoint, again, is a new game, so we're going to see more on that greatly. Rainbow Six Siege continues to go on, so I am curious to see what they're going to continue to do with E3 at Rainbow Six Siege, and if it's even going to have a presence there, or if they're just going to keep doing the updates for it completely separate from E3, because they've built their audience. They know what they have.
I'm kind of excited for Breakpoint, actually. It has my man, Shane. Oh, God, I just blanked on his last name.
Well, I can't help you there.
Yeah, he's an actor. He's in The Walking Dead. He was in Baby Driver. He's in
I don't watch enough movies or
Daredevil.
shows for this
He's
work.
Punisher. Shane Black?
The guy who's kind of got like real tan, muscular.
He's muscular. I don't know about tan.
But you said he is the Punisher, right?
Yeah.
I thought he looks kind of like tan to me.
No,
I've not watched.
Shane Black is a director.
Oh, okay, my bad.
No, that's what I said.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I don't know who this is, but yeah, it has him in it. I like some of his work. I'm not a huge fan of The Walking Dead, but I like his acting, and some of the camo stuff they're doing is really reminiscent of Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah,
so,
Metal Gear Solid 4 had a great camo
interested
system.
in that.
All right, Donovan says Destiny 3, and he brought up a good point. I said, think it's that time, and he says we haven't heard anything about what happens after next season.
However, we did not hear about Destiny 2 until after Taken King. We have until September.
Well, you need until after Rise of Iron.
Yeah, you're right. We have until September until Taken King's time hits, right? 3 years. Year 3.
Well, Taken King was year 2. Oh, year 1. I'm sorry. End of year 1 was Taken King.
Not end of year 1.
We've had this conversation
it was
before.
Year 2. You proved me wrong about it.
But it's the start of year 2. That's what I'm saying. Taken King is considered year 2 for Destiny, and then Rise of Iron is considered year 3.
I guess.
So at this point, you are right. At this point, but then again, they're free of Activision. So the existing structure doesn't have to exist. Who knows that we even get, like I said earlier, who knows that we even get Destiny 3 in the same format? What they could do from here moving forward is exactly what I've always hoped. What I've always hoped, though, where it's just it's for all intents and purposes, it's Destiny 3, but it's also just Destiny surname. It's just a massive expansion that takes up exactly what a Destiny 3 would be, but it continues to hold everything that Destiny 2 had.
I honestly would like
so
that.
It's possible.
And I really like the PS5 is backwards compatible, so I can play Destiny 2 on PS5.
There you go. All right, last one here. Mr. Matt Hunt says, I would love to see or even hear. Saw your foot felt so weird. I'm so sorry.
My eyes just like shot up like, whoa.
If you were watching, it was probably a lot more fun.
Cat ran in my leg. I
would love to see or even hear about a new Unreal Tournament. And you know what, man? I have to tell you, he said I played so much Unreal Tournament 3 on PS3. I am with you, Matt. I murdered on Unreal Tournament 3.
I'm with you too, because me and you had a lot of time. Like, you come spend the night and we played it a couple
times. We played the hell out of that game.
I will say, not a big fan of the newest one. Pretty garbage.
Of the newest one?
Yeah, the one that came out like last year on PC.
No, that's Quake Champions.
You're right. Why do I always mix those together?
Yeah, they're similar.
Quake. I did not like Quake. Yeah, they're
both arena shooters.
Yeah, I was gonna say MOBA shooters, but yeah, arena.
Yeah,
shooters.
they're very similar to original Halo Online.
Yeah, I mix those up. I love Quake 2.
Yeah, Quake. The Quake game for 360. What was it called? Was it Quake 3?
Or no? Yeah, you're right. It is Quake 3.
Yeah, Quake 3 was.
Quake 3 was good.
No, hold on, no, that's Quake 3 Arena. So it's not. That's not the one. Hold on, Xbox 360.
I like the one that was on 360.
I know.
And I actually played. I think I played
Quake 4. That's what it was.
Are
Quake
you
4.
Sure?
Yeah, that's it right there. I know that case. Anyway.
Okay, yeah, man.
Quake 4 was awesome.
It was.
That game was really cool, but it was also at a way different time.
What is up with those? Like, what is up with Last Generation having a symbol in neon like background? That was a big thing last.
That's just dude. That's like the other half of the Two Human.
He's still playing that game.
Oh, anyway.
But yeah, so I agree. Like a new Unreal Unreal Tournament would be pretty fun.
I love that, dude. Unreal Tournament 3 was the epitome of that series for me.
Quake let me down, and Doom's multiplayer let me down. So I'm sure Unreal Tournament will let
Doom's
me down.
multiplayer was fun, but it was shallow to me. I really liked the snap map.
Was cool, but yeah.
But that's not coming back.
Even like the hour that I played, even though the hour I played over here with you that one day, I just not have fun. So
fair enough.
But
so, that's about it for me. BioMutant was a really big one for me. I really want to know that, and I'm really excited to see more of what Twin Mirror is, isn't that what it's called?
Yeah,
the game from Vampire. Yeah, the Don't Nod game.
Dot Nod.
Is it?
It's Dot Nod. I'm pretty sure. Don't make me look dumb.
Dude, I was calling Don Bronco for weeks. Don't worry about it. That's how my brain read it every time. It's Don't Nod.
Why did I think that was Dot Nod? Same people who did.
What's funny is mine's also an N. There wasn't an N in mine, but I put one in, and then there was an N in yours, but you took it out.
I swear, I don't know how my eyes just skipped over the N.
Either way,
those are read as Dot Nod.
Those are big games. There's a lot of weird. I'm curious to see in general what happens in the AA sphere, because AA has been doing really well lately.
AA has been killing it, and that's where I think all the surprises are going to come from.
I think so too, but I feel like there's I don't know if we're going to see anything big new from them, because Focus Home Interactive have already shown kind of their hand for the year. So it's not impossible.
I'm not really excited for anything they have to bring right now.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens, and outside of that, I think this has been a good episode.
Yeah.
So, hey,
let us know what you are expecting, if you haven't already, in our community's take on Facebook, Twitter, or Discord.
Saw that was a very intense look, and I appreciated it. But with that said, this has been Triangle Squared, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks to our patrons, including our two new ones, Chad V, Dan Barber, Josh Jarrell, Matthew Green, my name is Dan, Douglas Below, Sean Santarud, Eric McAllister, Matt Sycamore, Shadowist, Steven Salazar, The Stonard, Travis Below, Blake Post, Eduardo Palomino, Stefan Swanlin, Coy Live, Philip LaGuerre, Corey Hickerson, Brian, Donovan Williams, Justin Rowe, William Digital Spooker, Derek Porter, Josh Ayers, and Thomas McKinnis. And if we get one more person, our columns are maxed out. Come on, somebody. Add in. Go to that description down there. Go to patreon.com/Nartech. Help a brother out. Until next week, though. Thank you.